Touched by the wind, by mushroom grayscale. Summary. Go to the one who collects curses, who makes deals in the dead of night. Yes, go to the one who is unable to tell lies. But remember my warning, my child, as this may be the only thing that will allow you to return alive from that doomed place that sucks up life. A Fleur de la Cour Hermione Granger fanfiction. The darkness was slowly taking over Hermione's vision. She swore under her breath as she tried to get back to the unfortunate job of building a fire. Incessantly she knocked the stones together, but the faint sparks didn't seem to be enough to make the dry weeds burn. Her teeth gritted together, almost ripping a chunk of her cheek along with it. Not even the scratches on her hands were enough to stop her determination. A rustle of leaves made her breath catch in her throat until she realized it was just the wind playing tricks on her. She kept cursing under her teeth as she worked on her ingrate job. More time had passed than she would have liked. Hermione couldn't allow herself to remain in the dark much longer. Not while she was stuck on that territory. She must have spent over half an hour persisting, almost making her fingers bleed in the process, but finally managed to make the flame appear. She wiped the sweat from her forehead with the palm of her hand, closing her eyes in relief. The sense that she was being watched persisted, like a cool breeze at the end of her neck, whispering sweet words that tempted her into the darkness. She shook her head and forced herself to get closer to the fire. At least now she had a fire to act as a barrier between her and any creature that decided to approach. Not that it would stop them from attacking. Her bare feet trembled under the icy earth. She didn't have time to put on a pair of shoes when she was forced to run away. She didn't regret it despite the cold and the new scratches that stamped her soles. The precious second she would have spent performing the task would have cost her her life. Blood and dirt mixed in such a way that it was almost impossible to distinguish between her feet and the ground. They would probably get infected, but she found herself occupied with higher priorities to occupy her mind. She would have to survive this night, yet to worry about the risk of infection. Hermione fixed her eyes on the roar of the fire, following the flames as they stretched upwards until it was nothing more but smoke in the air. Her fingers danced free in the smoke, absorbing the warmth and comfort the fire brought her. The same flame that was now bringing her comfort had so much destructive potential if it ran free through the petrified trees. The same hand that gave the rose was the one that shot the arrow. This flame was so different from the bonfire that had devoured her cabin until there was nothing left but ruins. So much smoke. She would have turned to dust with it if she hadn't been woken by the whisper of the wind taking her by force from the dream world. A cowardly act by even more cowardly humans. Hermione was lucky to still be alive. The forest which she had sworn her protection did not allow the humans to take her to the other plane any sooner than anticipated. However, she would not delude herself into thinking she would receive any more help, especially now that she was far from safe limits, deep within a territory whose name was unpronounceable for her kind. Who makes the deals in the dead of night? Ironic that the safest place for her to be was the place known to be the human doom. Well, if Hermione died in those lands, it would prove to those bastards in the village that she was as human as they were. Or perhaps more, since she had not sacrificed her humanity for corrupt ideals like theirs. You know, it's incredibly uncomfortable for you to stand there looking at me without telling me why. Hermione didn't take her eyes off the fire, she complained warily. Like, if you want to kill me, can you do it any time soon? This whole weight thing is incredibly annoying. The icy feeling at the back of her neck was reaching an almost uncomfortable point of burning. The forest remained silent except for the sound of the fire and the wind. Hermione gritted her teeth hard. Her breathing was getting harder. Fucking bastard. Her skin itched from the presence of unknown magic. The rustle of rustling bushes made her look away from the fire to investigate the approaching stranger. Long white hair glinted in the moonlight. silky smooth like the cloud it chased. Hermione had to control her desire to run her fingers over it, make a long braid, any excuse to be able to have the pleasure of feeling the touch of a simple strand in her palm. Hermione's eyes wandered down to the tip of the creature's sharp beak, thick as if it had been built solely to crush the skull of small animals. Looked even sharper in the firelight, which made it glow a little. The creature moved slowly, as if each step brought a different answer to Hermione's question. The long feathers were the only thing that covered her naked body, preserving the modesty from mischievous eyes. They were beautiful. They... Hermione's breath almost squirmed from her lungs at the word. The creatures turned her head to the side. Her piercing eyes seemed to look past Hermione. A loud squeak that Hermione assumed was a laugh echoed through the starry night. The creature began to approach at their slow pace, cautiously, as if fearing Hermione would try to run. I am more than a mere fey human. Her deep voice sounded like melodic velvet. Hermione brought her hand to the burning neck. The creature seemed to delight in the small gesture. You know what I am, don't you? Hermione's back hit hard on the trunk. She hadn't even realized she tried to pull away from that piercing gaze. The creature was so close now that Hermione could see the little colored details on his feathers. The creature had covered herself with some dark powder as if trying to keep the real colors from being noticed. Didn't do such a good job, as even in the dim light from the fire Hermione could see the striking shades of blue peeking out from their cell. Say what I am, the creature demanded in a low tone. Even with her throat dry, Hermione found herself answering. Veela. You are a Veela. Correct. The Veela looked at her curiously, which made Hermione uneasy. Why are you here in our forest? It was difficult to interpret the Veela's expression. Hermione had no idea what their intentions were, but what else did she have to lose? Lying would bring her nothing. The people of my village burnt my cabin with me inside because they believed I was practicing witchcraft. Hermione replied sincerely. Yes, go to the one who's unable to tell lies. They are fools. I don't smell magic on you. The Veela closed her eyes and took a deep breath, savoring Hermione's essence. But you are touched by the wind. The Veela's eyes widened, her head feathers lifting as she purred amusement. Even without a drop of magic in her blood, Hermione had a powerful ally by her side. She just didn't know if this would grant her some kind of immunity in the situation she'd found herself in. With her luck, it was likely not. I was the keeper of the forest, Hermione confirmed as one of the creature's talons came close to her cheek. The forest takes care of their own, the creature recited the odd saying. You can't go back to your village, can you? Hermione could swear the creature was smiling. It was strange how the creature approached her, putting herself millimeters from Hermione's skin, but still not touching the girl. Almost like she was waiting for permission. It was an odd contrast to how the one who was called a creature was being so respectful, even if still a little intrusive in her personal space. Hermione clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. Not if I want to stay alive. You are venturing into the Fey territory, though, the Veela said matter-of-factly. Hermione smirked. I'm still alive, aren't I? Only because you are fortunate enough to cross my path. Ten's eyes took her by surprise when asked, Would you come with me? The question sounded desperate, as if the very thought of Hermione refusing was devastating. Why did the Veela seem to care? They just met. It wasn't like they were important to each other. It was almost as if... To where? Hermione asked with a dry mouth. The Veela stared at her as if lost in Hermione's eyes. The girl's breath almost disappeared completely when the creature brought their sharp beak to her ear. Into the Veela territory. You'll be safe among mine. Davila whispered in an alluring voice. The idea of venturing into the Fairground was not a pleasant one. Many uncertain factors, few variables were available. Anything could happen in this scenario. Hermione had no idea what to expect from their encounter with the Davila flock. "I don't see how I'll be safer there than here." Hermione looked away, the burning in her neck almost suffocating her. The creature raised their hand as if they wanted to touch Hermione with their talons, but was holding back. Why the creature was making such an effort not to touch the girl, she had no idea. It was almost as if an invisible barrier was protecting Hermione from the Davila's touch. "Here you are alone, vulnerable to other creatures that may not be as considerate as me. But if you come with me, I will give you my protection." The creature sounded disappointed with Hermione's denial, but determined to convince Hermione to go with her. Hermione gulped. "Why?" The Davila smiled, or as close to a smile as possible with a beak. Their eyes glowed with an undetectable spark, as if they'd been waiting for this question all along. "Oh, darling, let's stop pretending. You know very well why. But remember my warning, my child, as this may be the only thing that will allow you to return alive from that doomed place that sucks up life." Hermione clicked her tongue to think. She wanted to go with Davila. Her bones practically begged her to accept the offer. But if Hermione let herself be carried away by her desires, she would be consumed by darkness. That was the last thing, the only thing she couldn't allow herself to do. "I won't give you my name," Hermione said firmly as her heart pounded in her mouth. Davila looked agitated. Finally, they were walking in the direction they wanted. It was almost delicious. A dance of wills they were practicing. "We can trade. I'll give you mine, and you'll give me yours," Davila said desperately, her feathers ruffled, her breathing labored. Hermione finally realized that Davila was loving this. It wasn't an invisible barrier. Davila were controlling themselves from the beginning to not take Hermione between their talons. I don't understand. Why trade? Why would they get rid of her name? Why would she trade her Fae essence for Hermione's humanity? "I can't explain it to you. At least not in a way you could understand without seeing for yourself." She offered her hand with a smile, waiting for Hermione's final decision. The wind couldn't protect her from that decision. It would be totally Hermione. She closed her eyes and let out a sigh. Her decision was already made, since she exchanged glances with the creature. "Hermione," she said as she took Davila's hand in hers. A vote of confidence. Davila seemed to taste the name in their beak for a while before facing the girl. "Fleur," Davila said, as her beak had dissolved, giving way to a human face with strong bird features. Hermione smiled, the heat from her neck gone now that the colored red feathers ran freely down her back. Her hands and feet didn't seem to burn anymore, now that thick skin covered them. Magic rushed through her veins, bringing the secret of the forest with it. Everything was the same. Everything was different. Things had changed, but still didn't. Her eyes met Fleur's, and she managed to understand what the Davila meant. "Come with me, my touch by the wind. Your new life awaits us." The end. Thank you for listening to this wonderful story by Mushroom Grayscale. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope I will see you tomorrow for the next story.